Hi, today we will learn how to use your arms and web camera to create a custom controls for your character. We'll create a new arm in Adobe Illustrator, rig character in Adobe Character Animator, create the scene controls and connect them with a MIDI and go through the code that makes it all work. Let's get started. Good morning, children. Today, so this code, what does it show you? This guy allows us to record the video or use a webcam. Right now we will be working with a video because it's just easier to explain and record everything. We'll loop over the video and we have option to transmit all our joints to the bear. We hit this to the true and we start playing the video. You can see that the bear is following our arm. But in this case, we can see that the arm is not really flipping to the proper position, right? It just keeps the same orientation, which is really not what's supposed to happen. And this is the current limitations when we are working with this live performance mode. So we will be looking how to make it better, because you can see at the moment, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Way to make it better is to really introduce a delay. But at the moment, the delay is already 0.01 second, which does not sound like a lot, but it's actually way more than when we are dealing with recorded video. We will review how this is different down the line. But you can see that at the moment, we can loop over the video, and as we are doing that, we can actually continue to make adjustments with our hotkeys or anything like this, because all art is live, right? Nothing is pre-recorded, and we can just keep the process in the Character Animator. So we are really diverse when it comes to, being able to implement it. And it's not really 100% as perfect as I want to when we are dealing with live performance specifically. But we will see that it's way better when we already recognize the joints and we can replay them down the line. The full circle of motion of like, hey, now let's make sure that the full range of elbow is covered in both directions, and then full range of shoulder is covered. We can see what is the result if we are recording live. So I can just simply change this variable to camera reference, and I will be able to do the same thing with webcam, but I'm not ready to record myself at the moment. And now we can switch to the MIDI player. We can create a new screen and we can replace already recognized joints for our character, and let's see if that makes a difference in the way it performs. So we flipped it in. Now instead of recognizing the video, you can see it's way different experience now, and as we are playing, now our bear moves along very smoothly, and the complete arm flips are happening as expected, right? When the bear brings the arm inside, it goes inside. When it goes outside, the arm flips to outside, right? And this is exactly the same code as we used for the leaf performance. It just works better because in this case, it's just a better covered use case. Bear's arm is so long, it just get out of the window. This is our target state, essentially. We can record the video or make a performance live. And when we doing the live performance in a previous step, we also recording all the joints. So we don't have to do make the bear follow us, right? Instead, what we are doing is we are grabbing these joints and we will be able to replace them, which maybe not the greatest way if you want to stream with a character, but it's a very great way to make a performance and capture it and transform it in a cartoon to save time on animation. Because especially when it comes to just simple arm movements, you can see that it works pretty reliably across all the range of movement. And we will be targeting to fix that. Something else that we can do that though. When we are done, we are receiving the complete graph. Come on, ABS, ABS, ABS! So we can see a little bit of a messy graph, but what it allows us to see is the way the elbow moves as we are going through the motions. So here goes our graph, and we can look how the elbow moves and check basically how this correlates with the graph, right? So we have on the right side, we have our skeleton. On the behind, we have the graph, and we have the bear for reference, right? So pretty much as good as it goes. Let's try to figure out how this works. As we are moving the elbow to this part, we are flipping. Now we are going back and forth. Now we're going back, down, up. You can see that the elbow is moving very nicely. The question is, what is required to make it happen? And we will cover everything because one arm is fully ready and another arm is not ready at all. And we will start to work on it through the very beginning, because right now we are going to navigate to the Illustrator window. So what we can see here we can see, here is the different arms that we expect. This arm is ready and this arm is not. What is the difference? This arm is completely straight on the x-axis. This is important because we will be using x-axis to scale our arm. So if our arm is looking kind of down, pointing kind of down in the Illustrator, this is not gonna transform very well because the x-axis is gonna smoosh it kind of a sideways in a way that we have it outlined, right? So it would be from left to right, and if this gonna be smooshed fairly evenly, this will be smooshed in a weird way. So first thing that we need to do is to fix all that. And we also need to remember to create the appropriate layers. I think it's layers. So let's go through all that we need. Let's get inside and compare how the arms are structured. Right, in the left arm, we have left forearm that includes a bunch of layers, and we have the shoulder that include much less. So what is included in the shoulder level is the ways for us to flip the elbow. You can see that based on if we are in or out, our elbow can point in different directions. And this is what we want to handle, right? Based on the different arm zones, we have all these different shoulder arms that are also positioned in the same place. So we can simply flip between them and the things are looking nicely. What we can do now is we can make all this guy appear. We can Control C. We can hit here, we can Control Shift to V, and this would allow us to go to Object Transform, and we can select something like a Reflect. And Reflect will have the vertical reflect, which will flip it, and we can just hold right until it's ready. Should I line it up? I think I should line it up this way, right? What we have inside the forearm layer? We have the center wrist, which is essentially when we don't see the forearm and only see the wrist because we're bending our arm. And we have our wrists inside it. We want to be inside it because as we will be rotating it in the future, we will use this rotation behavior in Character Animator to rotate both forearm and the wrist. They need to be inside the same layer, and hence the wrist supposed to be inside the forearm. All right, let's start by copying the forearms. Let's get this, and this, and I think it's all of them, right? I think so. All right. Now we need to move the wrist and the center wrist. Okay, dokie, let's get all the wrists. and Control C. Let's get into the wrist. Control Shift V. Object. Object. Transform. Reflect. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you got that number. Push it. It worked. I worked. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ba 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 ra ra pa 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 ra pa pa da da ra. Okay, is the distance good? I think it's a little bit more. Wedge, nudge. Okay, that looks better. Boo is almost ready. Control C and Control V. Control Shift V. Yes, let's put it something like that. And you can see the step 1, and we kind of covered passively what are important layers out there, but I guess it will not hurt too much if we go through them one more time, just to be sure. We are working with arms right now, right? So we have the left and right arms layers. It's important to have the layer on top of the arm because it will be non-independent layers that are gonna attach your arm to your body. After this, you have the actual arm. If you have the multiple sets of arms based on, I don't know, you have the weapons, jewelry, or anything else, you can make the swap sets here. So you can have multiple arms inside it. At the moment, it's just one for me. If we go inside the arm, we have the separate layers for the shoulder, which includes only arts for the different shoulders based on whenever you are swapping your wrist based on different zones, right? So it could be zone down, up, left, and right. In is when we are bringing our arms inside the body. The down is when our arm facing down. Out is to the left. The way is this guy. So this is art. And this is everything that is supposed to follow inside the shoulder rotation. So it's supposed to be inside their own nested group. And this, in this case, include our forearm and the wrists. And wrists also have swap sets, and the forearms also have swap sets because as we are bringing our arm inside, etc., these guys are gonna change both sides or disappear completely, as you can see on the live bear. And bing! You all want to stop to YouTube. The Character Animator. Now we have the arm stretched out, but it's not really ready to be controlled in the same sort of way that we have for our main arm. So what we are missing? Let's review the controls that we do have. And I actually tried to correlate them with the way I prepare controls in Spider. So let's review how this is made. If we go to the Spider and remove all the nonsense, we can see there are MIDI values that we do set up, and we are dealing with the near shoulder, near values at the moment. And we can see in here, we can go shoulder scaling, and if we flip to the Character Animator, we can see exactly the same thing. We can see the shoulder, and we can see shoulder scaling. And if we go back to Spider, after this it will be elbow scaling. And if we go to the Character Animator, we can now see the elbow. We can see now properly elbow and we can see the elbow scaling. And shoulder scaling, see, it just kind of scales the whole thing, and the shoulder scale, elbow scaling only scales elbow and up. And this is also why we needed to group things in this sort of way. And the scale on x-axis allow us to kind of move our arms towards the middle before we actually flip into the center arm that we prepared as a fist, center wrist. And at the end, we will have the wrist, and in a Spider, we will have the same thing, right? So this is a way for us to kind of keep it consistent and to be able to connect the code with the character animator, right? So it's very important, because if you're gonna use different MIDI values, which is out here, you can see as we are creating swap sets, we're creating MIDI nodes, and MIDI node out here, see wrist side up. This is the buttons, which allow us to flip our arms. So if we go to the character animator, we can see that in, out, up and down. We can also flip them manually. So this is our wrist zones. This is how we can flip around our arm. And we can do it by simply using the, we can just use a keyboard for that, right? Not a problem. But we can also do this automatically as a part of the flip. But additionally, you can see the 60, 61, 62, 63 above the controls. And this is what we can assign when we go to layout and assign a MIDI value. And this is what we are using out here as a 60, 61, 62, 63, right? If you're gonna use the different MIDI values for your knobs out here, you will need to adjust them. And this is why they kind of separate in a code. Hopefully that helps. Now we need to replicate those controls for our newly created arm. So we open up the bear, but now we need to figure out the behaviors and layer tagging inside the character animator. First thing that we want to track is behaviors and independence. So we have left arms, not independent, right arms, not independent, right arm inside is independent. And the dot is not out here. The dot for right arm supposed to be somewhere here, because we will be adding the rotation behavior and the arm will be rotating around this dot. So it's very important to position it appropriately. And down the line, if you're not happy with how your arm's moving, so your faces of your shoulder, shows, etc., try to nudge it down left and right. As we're putting this dot, you can see we have the transform behavior assigned to the left arm. Let's grab my feet. What the hell is this song? Oh, so funny. Okay, let's add transform. Transform behavior would allow us to rotate the arm. I'm sorry, I need the next song. Inside it, we have the forearm. Forearm will have to be also independent. If you want it to be rotating nicely without scaling the, without distorting your arm in the forearm. Once again, need to appropriately position the dot, so we're gonna rotate around it. Ideally, it will be circle fitted inside here, and we will be able to detect where the middle of the circle and align this perfectly, but not something we can do at the moment. And let's do the transform as well. Now we have two transform behaviors from where we can get rotate knobs and we can move further. Inside the shoulder, we have a bunch of art for the shoulder. So we can create the swap set tip inside the right shoulder. What this will allow us to do is to use the swap set to add all other art in, up, down, out inside here. And we have out as a default one, and we latch on every single one of them. And these guys are left arm, 67, 66, 68, and 69. These guys, in my case, are the same, but 70. So 67, 77, 66, 76, 68, 78, 69, 79. And let's also assign some keyboard shortcuts just above. So B will be G, the N will be H. Really don't need it much, but it's nice for testing purposes to have it and to be able to kind of jiggle it around. This is done with right shoulder. Now let's move on to the right forearm. The first thing that we can see, these guys are participating in a swap set. Let's do it. So let's select in and drag it inside the right shoulder in. Down goes inside down, up goes inside up, and out goes inside out. You can do it separately to have the different effects between transitioning for your arms, like based on whatever your character is doing. But for now, let's keep it simple and just go straight away flipping complete arm as we are going. Now, wrist center and left wrist, both independent for the wrist center because it's just gonna fly around a little bit. And we have the independent thing for the right wrist as well, because we will have the transform behavior, because we do want to rotate, which means that we also will need to adjust our dot and add the transform behavior. For the wrist, we will need transform behavior as well, because in order for it to be fly around, we will need to be able to move it across the X and Y axis. And transform behavior allows us to do it. And get inside the right wrist, because they will also need to participate in the swap sets. In to in, down to down, up to up, and out to out. Get in there. Now we have our arm rigged and ready for operation. What do we have? We have our independence, we have our layers, we have everything ready. Hey! So now we can open the bear and we can build our sync controls further. Let's go to the layout and we need to find first rotation for our, so we have our left arm and we have our right arm, right? We have our right arm transform, and rotation out here should be a shoulder. As you can see, moves nicely. Out here a little bit weird. So maybe let's get back to the bear. And if it's go a little bit higher, then the dot's supposed to be lower. Something like that, I assume. Rotation. Let's also set up a little bit more of a neutral position. And we need to find value when it's pointing absolutely down, which is 90. And will be from 90 plus 360, 90 plus 360, 450 or so, right? I did not open calculator. What is it? Wasn't me. Now this is supposed to be full circle, right? So we go from down counterclockwise all the way, one circle. Let's prepare the recording. We have the shoulder ready. Now we need the scale X for the shoulder, scale X for the shoulder. Let's just keep it in the same scale. So at the maximum, oh, okay, that worked. 71. Yeah, so at maximum we have the arm all the way stretched, and at the minimum it's quite a bit less, and we will be using it for the punch, because if we gonna swap this with our fist and we gonna increase our fist at the same time as we are decreasing this is where the punch is gonna happen. Next goes the elbow. We need rotation for the elbow, which will be inside the right forearm, and 0 actually works, which does make sense. And 360, 0, and 62, and 72. Who said 62? I did not say 62. And you can see the controls are building up, and we will also be able to control both our arms with a motion capture and add our own personal control on top of that. Now we need to add the scale X for the elbow. Scale X for the elbow from 70 all the way to the 100. Mark it up. And here comes the wrist from minus 30 to 50 makes sense to me. And 74 and record. And this is it. Our base rigging for the arm is ready. The only thing that we have left to do is to recover all the code pieces that is required for that. Let's go through the code. Let's go through the code, my friend. Let's go through the code. You can see that the naming convention helped us when it comes to assigning the MIDI values. We had the consistent 60 and we have consistent 70. So we were able to just plus 10 and assign all the buttons and MIDI controls as well. So this actually saves a lot of time. The code is not completely written for the both arms. You can see we have our per shoulder scaling and per shoulder wrists and near shoulder wrists calculated, but I don't think we have all the MIDI signals. In fact, our arm at the moment is disabled manually. So we want to address this, and as we are gonna fix the code, we will hope to explain how it works a little bit as well, to maybe give someone a better idea. All right, let's get rid of this, and actually let's get rid of everything. Let's just completely copy near and use the power of the naming convention to solve all our issues. So we go and process the far elbow knob. For that, we get the last value of the far wrist, the last MIDI value that we send, and we subtract our current value for the far elbow. We calculate the difference, and if the difference is more than 2, then we send far elbow MIDI value. Well, not far. We send MIDI control that we assign in Character Animator, and this is a value for the knob, which is also supposed to be flipped from near to far. Time delay in this case is not required, weirdly enough. So at the moment we don't have the scaling on, but I want to keep the naming fixed. And what this does is the same thing as a knob for the elbow. It calculates the difference, but in this case the scaling is less sensitive, so we're gonna calculate the bigger difference between the previous value and the current value of scaling. And we are selling the MIDI value for the MIDI numbers that we assigned for the controller for the current scaling. But at the moment it's off because I don't want to get distracted on that. So the center flip is where we actually see some difference. Before we were dealing with knobs, and in Python the 176 is a way to send signal to the knob. But if you want to send the button press, this is a way to do it. You go this code and with value 100, this would send the button press. So a button on and button off. So you don't have to do it separately this way, which is very nice. Now we go to the buttons that we press in order to trigger our different arms based on if it's down, left, right, up and down. First of all, we need to continue flip everything from the near to far. Down our MIDI top, far, down our MIDI bottom, far. The thresholds for both arms are same for me. So the MIDI values where you actually have to flip the arms between the zones would be same, but the only difference would be the left and right. I'm gonna flip because now outside and inside is in opposite direction because it's the opposite side of the body. Let's see what would be expectation versus reality. Well, first things that I see is that we do need time delay now. So what we are seeing right now is fairly common. I saw it a lot, and the way to fix it is actually introduce some time delay. At the moment will be 0.02 seconds, so very little time delay, fraction of the second, but let's hope it's gonna help us. And if it's not, let's deal with it. And let's see what about now. This is so interesting. Let's see, maybe we missed something. This is where things are starting to happen. Let's see. Far MIDI out, send message. Let's see if we need more, significantly more delay. Oh, significantly more delay helps. So we can see that the more controls we use at the same time, the more things are getting affected, right? So when we were just sending one arm, it was really not a problem to just send it right away. And now we need to introduce the delay, which is order of magnitude bigger. So if we want everything to keep working smoothly, which is a little bit unfortunate, but we can actually bypass it by going to the Character Animator, and we can hit record, and we can record only one arm, and then we can rewind back and we can hit record, and we can record the second arm. And because everything is recorded and replayed in exactly the same way, we can automate this process and simply record one arm, then record another arm, and just go this route. Because at this moment, I think all the range of movement is working fairly well, and we can go very fast from recording the video to get into the joints. So let's actually record a bit of something and replay it. Instead of the video, we use a camera. And we will not send MIDI, and actually we will send MIDI as we are going, just for you to be able to see how this looks if we are working directly with MIDI. Let's stop that and run the video camera. You can see we did not rig another arm in here. But our other arm is working live. So this is not a problem, right, for us to replay. And our book can follow us right away, live. But also, as we are moving around, we are actually recording everything. And this recording is reusable. Let's see what we are talking about. Right now, we can go ahead and pause the recording, and we can move to the player, and we can just start it, which allows us to get the new skeleton. And the new skeleton will have the new recognized joints that we can use. You can see that the right arm is a little bit of a different beast. But now we can use both arms, and with a little bit of a debugging, we'll be able to get it happen. And this is the whole idea behind the project, to be able to briefly record some performance and use it as either replay or some other method. You can see that the forearm needs a little bit more work, but this is all work inside the code that I will update in the GitHub, so you will be able to reuse it. This is all the steps that really are required for you to make it happen when it comes to having your performance recorded, because when we are dealing with the videos, we are talking about something much easier because, well, we are actually capable of just like pre-plan or even stitch it, edit it, and it's very easy to get the joints out of your performance and make your character follow it. Well, let's hope it would be informative for some people, because I know that this kind of 5 minutes deep dives are very hard to follow. Let's hope it will be more useful. Let me know if you enjoyed the deeper dives or you want to keep following the shorter ones. Cheers!